Okay. So now it's official. We
So
are,
now theoretically I can get in. Maybe I have to go out again. Okay. Go ahead. I'm in by phone. That's all I care about.
okay. All right. So from last meeting, we discussed the letter to Senator Menendez that Peter and Rob had drafted something. We were getting citizens to sign it from both sides of the river. We discussed trying to get the task force or trying to get the Board of Supervisors to request LMT citizens to send letters, but that did not materialize. We discussed the status of Trenton threatened skies, and just to introduce that topic to more people, that they've been expanding their website, expanding their base, and they do have an active lawsuit against the FAA regarding the runway protection zone. We had just sent in, before that meeting, we had the Board of Supervisors send in a letter to the Pennsylvania DEP water study. And then we had them, like the next day after the meeting, send in a letter to the New Jersey Clean Air Council. Both of those letters have been made public, and I've sent them to Bram. I know, Joanne.
Rick, can I interrupt you? Can I interrupt you for 1 minute in case other people are clicking on the link that Bram sent out for tonight's meeting? I'm not seeing how you access the meeting on YouTube. I pressed the YouTube link on on Bram's email, and I'm into Lower Makefield Township's website. How do we actually access the meeting?
Well, does the YouTube link not have a meeting ID or something like that?
Mrs. Hall, this is Holly. It's right on the top. If you go to the link, it says Live Now. Lower Makefield Township, Trenton, Mercer Airport Review Panel, and you click Live Now, and then you're connected.
Yeah, that's not coming up for me, but okay, I'm glad that you were able to do it. Okay, good.
You can also get it in Facebook or YouTube, right?
I'm on YouTube, and now I've gotten it. Okay, now I've got it.
Sometimes it takes a minute for the link to connect that they're live.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So let's see. We did a review, a little bit of review on the TTN plans regarding their budget, that they have $177 million outlay planned, and a few details about that based on the gate capacity. Questions were raised as to how will they possibly make up the financial commitment they're making, especially given the way the travel industry is trending now. We brought up the fact that Mercer County has approved $54,000 for marketing for more airlines to TTN. And it was discussed that the Pennsylvania political intervention be pushed because Mercer County is speeding up the process of trying to get these projects done. So panel members, those are the minutes from the meeting. Can you approve those? Do we have a motion? Okay, Joanne. All right, so approved. So I will send those and last month's minutes into Barbara Ellison, and we can at least have that checked off the box. Thank you. So for this meeting, I wanted to bring up that, I don't know, I mean, some of you were already on the phone call with Senator Menendez, but for the panel members, last Friday, Peter had arranged a discussion with a couple of staffers from Menendez's office. And we had a representation by maybe 4 or 5 New Jersey citizens and a couple of Pennsylvania citizens, 2 of whom are on this call, or 3 of whom, I guess, including me. And so we presented, basically everybody presented some specific point very succinctly, and there was no redundancy to the discussions. Deborah Basement talked about air pollution. Everybody had, something specific to talk about. Robin Karp had talked about the overall thing about what's going on is kind of an introduction. Rob emphasized a little more about the airport operations versus safety issues. So all those things were presented. It was a bit of a sipping from a fire hose for the staffers, I believe. And a number of specific asks were brought up for Senator Menendez to interact with the FAA, to interact with the New Jersey DEP, to put pressure on Mercer County to be transparent in their budget. And those asks have now been formalized into a document that TTS has on a Google Drive. And I think it looks really good. And so I had formulated a group of, a collection of asks that I thought would make sense, sent those in. They've edited those and added to them some more points. And so that's what will go to Senator Menendez. And what I expect is to wrap up a letter with the same kind of asks, and I'm going to try to keep it maybe to 2 pages to keep it short, and have it be something that we as citizens can send on to our elected officials. And I would just put it out there to Toomey and Casey and everybody, and go to the New Jersey folks want to send it to Booker, send it to Murphy, and just put it out there and say, this is ongoing. We're not getting support. There's these budget issues, pollution issues, all this stuff. And so, but it will have specific asks for things for them to do. And so I think I can get that done in the next few days. And I'm not trying to get as specific about which parts of the budget are paid by federal versus state, which is what I was trying to do, but I think that's just keeping me from getting this done. So I just think to say, to the Pennsylvania politicians, we can't ask them to comment about Mercer County budget, but we can ask them to communicate to the FAA that they are supporting Fitzpatrick's efforts, that, there's things that there are a number of things that different people from different states can do. And so I think at the New Jersey level, they can pressure on their side. They can also pressure the FAA, and our PA people can pressure the New Jersey DEP because the pollution affects us as well. And so I'm going to try to wrap that up, but we do have a nice set of information going to Senator Menendez, and it was a very professional, polite call, and informed his staff about what the issues we're facing are. So we've come a long way from his office saying, we haven't heard about this, and no one, the airport says there's no issues, no complaints. And Susanna McGee did bring up the fact that the point she made was about the airport basically throwing away all of the complaints over the years.
What was their reaction? And did they say anything about, well, we've never heard this before?
They didn't say that. Susanna said that, herself, that in calling the office before, the response was that the office had never heard of these complaints, and that when they she laid it out, because I don't know if these individuals were around, 2 years ago or whatever, when those first outreach calls were made. And so one of the guys, Josh, was familiar with Deborah Baseman. He recognized her name.
Richard, may I say something about what I said at the meeting?
Yeah. Hey, Sue, I see you're on. Great.
Hi. Okay. So what happened was a little more than a year ago, I uncovered the fact through a Oprah request that it was the policy at the Trenton Mercer Airport to every 3 days to delete all complaints from the complaint line. Now that was done by the same gentleman who was there 2 years ago. I don't know exactly how many years Herzog was there, but for many years. And so that's been the policy forever. Now, there is no record of those complaints. Now, what is especially egregious is that we know of no follow-up. We know many people have complained over the years, consistently every week, some people, but then there have been calls from all over the areas. Now, what happens is this gives cover to the politicians saying they haven't heard any complaints. Now, they claim, now this was confirmed through an Oprah, and it was also confirmed by the county administrator, mayor, who confirmed that this was the policy. And as far as we know, no follow-up was ever done to any of those calls. Now, for many years, they always listed that complaint line. They listed the complaint line in all of their PowerPoint presentations and all of their handouts. So citizens in Mercer County were under the impression that when they logged complaints, they were real. But in fact, it was just sort of a bait and switch operation that had been going on for many years.
Yeah.
So that's all on that. Okay, I'll mute myself now.
No, that's all right. I mean, I didn't notice the staffers having knowledge of that. I think they were. Sue, do you remember a specific reaction to your comment of that? I think it was just kind of a acknowledgement, not any kind of gasping or shock.
Well, when I first discovered it, it was purely by accident.
But we're talking about the reaction in this phone call. What was the reaction?
Oh, in the phone.
What was the reaction of the staffers to this discussion? Just the overall discussion, and maybe that specific point. Were they sympathetic? Did they just listen? What was,
they just listened. They just listened. They had no reaction.
Sue, quick question. This is Brendan. Who confirmed that was the policy again?
Brendan Herzog, or Keith, excuse me. Keith Herzog, who monitors the complaint line at the airport, and the county administrator, Mr. Mayor. They both confirmed that. And then the reason it took them many months before they changed that policy, but that policy had been in effect for years.
Can you?
What happens with the complaints now?
Could you read my mind?
I haven't filed a new Oprah since that was discovered. So I just haven't. They claim that I can file a new Oprah and request those complaints, but I must file a new one every month.
And what was the timeline on the latest request?
Oh, when I first filed the Oprah on it, I first found out about the complaint line in May of last year. I asked to listen to the complaints, and because I asked to listen to the complaints, I actually spoke to Keith, who manages the complaint line, and he admitted he deletes the messages every 3 days. And he kept absolutely no records over the years of the complaints coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we don't know so the policy now would be somebody has to file to get the complaints?
You always have to, and we found, Trenton Skies has found almost consistently that any kind of real information that you want from the county, you have to file an Oprah. An Oprah is our local FOIA request.
Okay.
They don't give us any information, and for the most part, unless we file it.
Okay.
Did they give any indication they were going to plan to change that policy from previous?
One of the meetings I attended last fall, the county administrator and a couple of the freeholders congratulated themselves. I'm sorry to sound snarky. Congratulated themselves that was no longer the policy.
But Susanna, given their, hi, this is Sue.
Hi, Sue.
given their history of disingenuous behavior, I'm not
Right.
positive they did anything to change that policy. Are you?
Well, I haven't filed another OPRA for it, but I originally filed an OPRA on all complaints, and what I received was the database on the written complaints. And as we all know, that is a pretty that database and filling out that form can be very problematic. But I received that information, and then that's when I asked for the information on the phone line, on the complaint line, and that's when they said they had no records of it. Then I had to go back again to the freeholders. But no, you're right. I don't know if what they said at the freeholder meeting in late fall is actually true. I haven't filed another OPRA on that, but I could, but I haven't.
Okay, first.
I think it would be, if you're willing and able to, I think it would be good to do that. You know, I don't think you're going to get a lot of response to this lack of transparency from the politicians, because I think it's a very significant problem for them. And I think it's one of the biggest things the public has going for them. Again,
You probably, yeah, I can file another OPRA on that. Yeah.
But it sounds like they did keep all the paper complaints.
Well, actually, the problem with that was there are some times where the online form is down for like months. So there's huge gaps in what I received. But I did get a lot of complaints. I did get the data. I did get the Excel spreadsheet, and it's quite expensive.
They threw everything away. They threw away the voice.
Yeah, but the thing is that you need to know that at every meeting they've ever held and at every handout, what they've asked you to do is call the complaint line.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pitch that they've always made.
Okay. So for Senator Menendez to hear about the complaints, somebody in his office would have to file an OPRA with the airport to get them?
I don't know, but I know they make just regular people file OPRAs.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. Okay. And Susanna, stay on the line, because I'm going to ask for an update on how you guys are doing with your lawsuit and other outreach and that kind of stuff. I wanted to mention one other thing before that. Because of some alert action by Judy Huckner, she made, at least this is how I came to know of it, she made me aware of that the Quiet Skies Caucus was going to send a letter to the FAA saying their response to the noise mandate in the FAA Reauthorization Act was wholly inadequate and not consistent with what they put in there for, the requirements. And we got in very short order, because of emails from a lot of people, I think, and phone calls to Fitzpatrick's office. He got on that letter. He signed the letter basically the day before it went into the FAA. So, good news is the FAA is getting pushback from Congress saying this 24-hour, 65 decibel average noise level is not something that Congress wants to be their standard. They want it to be studied and looked at in context of individual planes and what the impact on lives is. And so whether it was Judy finding out or somebody else, and Judy communicating to me, thanks to the community for finding that out, because we did get Fitzpatrick to get his name on that letter. So that's a good thing. And I think it's another quiver in the air, or arrow in the quiver for complaining to our federal politicians to say, please write a letter to the FAA and say they understand this pushback on the policies that are affecting our community is going on, and they want to see that change. So I just think the more FAA hears this kind of stuff at the federal level, the better. And so they've got a caucus signed letter, and if we can get our senators to weigh in on this as well, that would be great. So, and
Rich, are you talking about U.S. senators, the federal senators?
yeah, I'm saying, my intent is for us as citizens, not as a panel or the Board of Supervisors, but to send a letter, and maybe we can get the supervisors to send a letter as well, but to send letters signed just like we did with the Menendez one, with, as many signatures as we can, and say, this is an issue facing us. Can you help us with this problem? And just let them say no if they're going to say no, or let them know this is what we're asking, but have a specific number of asks to, a limited number, but say, this would make a difference if you would act on this. But yeah, I'm thinking Toomey and Casey and, maybe Wolf to interact with, comment to the New Jersey side about the DEP issues and the permitting of all these projects.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So, okay, Susanna, or Holly, do you have anything you want to say about the other interactions, or Glenn?
I thought it was a good meeting.
I was hoping that there'd be more interaction, actually. But I don't know why I thought that. At least we had a meeting.
Well, I didn't expect them to try to give a reaction, because they probably have to coordinate that with Menendez and different levels. And so that they took it in, and Peter will follow up with them. They'll get this letter with the asks, and Peter will be on them to what's the timeline for responding to these requests. I think he's pretty good at keeping on top of them for that. So we'll see what comes of that, but I didn't expect them to start promising anything in that.
No.
In that venue.
I mean, at least we got in.
We did. Okay. So Susanna, how are things going with TTS?
Well, things are slow, I think, as you know. But it looks like from the latest email from Robin this morning, she was able to, Potter responded. So it looks like we have a tentative meeting, conference call, Zoom call on Monday afternoon, or late, or maybe it's, let me see, hold on. On Monday, sometime on Monday. The actual time hasn't been set. So the goal will be to set sort of agree when we'll be available for mediation. And then Potter will confirm that with the people on the other side, Department of Justice. So that's what's happening on Monday. So hopefully we can sort of firm up some times in our conference call on Monday that will all be available for a mediation, and the location for mediation, and who will be there.
And Sue, who was this meeting with again? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Well, Bill Potter is our attorney.
Got it.
And so we have a petition in the federal courts in Philadelphia. And so we would be having it with the representatives on the other side, the attorney on the other side, and possibly a representative from the FAA will also be there.
Oh.
Okay, so the DOJ will have their attorney, and then hopefully an FAA representative will also be in that meeting. Our attorney will be in that meeting, and then one or more of Trenton Threatened Skies members will be in the meeting to discuss the mediation, I should call it, to discuss our asks.
Well, what's the objective of the mediation? I mean, mediation, usually when you go into a mediation, then you're required to accept the outcome of from the mediator, the decision of the mediator.
May I ask who's speaking?
Joanne Ginnivan.
Hi, Joanne. Well, you know what? I'm not sure, Joanne, that that's actually the case, but that is certainly something. So I've actually heard that from our attorney. Our attorney has said we do not have to accept it. But the thing is, that's probably one of the topics that will be covered on Monday. They've asked, the FAA, the Department of Justice has asked for this mediation. We think that's positive.
Yeah, but I mean, if you end up in a mediation where you have to accept the mediator's decision, that could just okay, then we're done. And when they say, okay, they can build the terminal and do what they want, then
no,
recourse.
Our attorney has said many times that we do not need to accept their stand. The mediation is about us sort of seeing where each side is at. It's our first discussion with the other side, and we share what we want to have happen, and then it's a discussion. But no, our attorney has said many times that no, we do not need to accept what the mediator may decide.
Okay.
And Susanna,
It's positive that you're talking. I just would just make sure that you don't end up kind of in what I usually think of a mediation. But
Susanna, this is just on the Berkeley protection zone, right?
Yes, it's on the RPZ. You're right, Richard. It is. And so we're looking at a number of options. And so this mediation is about the RPZ. Yes. But, we're bringing them to the table. We'll discuss what we would like. And so we'll decide from that mediation if we want to continue with mediation. We'll decide if we want to, submit a brief. We have a number of options that should become clearer after we talk to them.
great.
Just having the conversation that's a pretty good step.
Well, we think so because they're the ones that are pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Very good.
Good luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Glenn,
So,
do you have anything you'd like to bring up?
Are you asking for other comments, Richard?
I was asking Glenn specifically. I see he's on.
Oh.
Okay.
Glenn's muted, so he'd have to unmute him.
There he is.
I just unmuted. I didn't really have any other comments. I'm cautiously optimistic that the mediation is a good step. I would just say, remember, mediation is different than binding arbitration.
Yes, we know. And we know that 2006, I think, there was an issue that the airport had agreed that if they brought in another carrier, that they would then adhere to having an EIS done. And as we know, they didn't do that. So we know that we have to step gingerly and get everything in writing.
Yep.
We don't want to go back to 2006.
This is Holly. just curious, Suzanne. I know this is the litigation has to do with mediation has to do with RPZ. Has Bill suggested any way to finesse the mediation issues, if nothing else, but to get other items on the table at the same time?
Well, Holly, I really can't answer that. But we're working, we've put together our ask. We're going to conference with Bill. We're going to, hopefully in the next couple weeks, set up the mediation. But I think you'd need to talk to Bill about that.
Okay.
Okay.
And is it possible for you guys to share what it is your list consists of, so we're not duplicating effort?
No, I can't actually at this time. We've asked Bill not to share the list outside of the attorney for the other side. So no, not at this time. I can't share it.
Fine.
Susanna, will you guys take into consideration, maybe the timing, not now, that email that I believe you acknowledged from Don, where he was recommending sending traffic over the large highways, air traffic over the large highways to diminish impact on residents?
Sue, we consider that a very important topic.
Okay.
All right. So I just want to assure you, you received it, we discussed it, and we consider it important.
Okay. Thank you.
And we also know that from information that we've gathered, that's a reasonable thing. So it's, we did receive it and we have discussed it. But I can't discuss what our ask is. I'm not in a position. We've asked our attorney not to discuss it with anyone until we have the mediation. So I think I just need to honor that.
Okay. Susanna, I might suggest.
I'm not trying to be at all, deceptive or anything. It's just, we need to wait until we're there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly, have our own concerns with where the traffic goes and
of course,
which runways they're using and how low they're. So we're not in that session to talk about the mediation, but we do have concerns about how what the result of the mediation is. And
of course. And definitely, Richard, will be sharing that with you and with the people at BRAM at the appropriate time. As you know, there'll be no delay when we feel it's the appropriate time. And I can't say whether it's after the mediation, because I don't know how many sessions it'll be, or whether it'll be after if we decide to, submit the brief. But we will definitely be sharing that information.
What I can offer is
as soon as we're able.
Okay. What I can offer is I know some time back, Rob had written up from a pilot's perspective things they could be doing to mitigate noise. He was a strong proponent of noise mitigation procedures that did not require, major, require lawsuits or major changes to anything. But he said, if you would take these steps, this would do a lot to alleviate the impact on these neighborhoods. I'm going to try to find. What's that?
Yeah, if you could forward that to me and Deb and Robin, that would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, so I will look for that, and when I find it, I will forward that to you guys, because it was something that the FAA may look at and say, oh, okay, they're asking for, and they were very concrete things. It wasn't they weren't motherhood statements. So I'll look at that.
Right.
And Rich, as I recall,
it's Glenn. Glenn, I want to jump into this one. My recollection of the discussion at the time when that was brought up was that noise abatement procedures are pretty standard at major airports. But the catch-22 that Trenton was using is that the FAA won't approve the noise abatement procedures and approaches and stuff unless it's requested by the airport. And of course, the airport wasn't going to request it. So they were using that as a catch-22. So as you process those suggestions, just keep in mind that little catch-22 that was thrown out in the previous conversation a couple of years ago. Thanks.
All right.
That's good information to have. Thank you for sharing.
And Glenn, just to
Susanna?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Let Brendan go.
I was going to say, just to reinforce that last position Glenn made, I recall Rob saying these are commonly applied principles around the country, as I recall. And I'm not going into specifics, but I know we've spent a lot of time discussing this over the years. And it is something that the mitigation could, maybe it's going up the river at certain times or whatever, or alternating the flight patterns, where it's commonly done, and it could be a great thing if they ask for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Okay, Sue?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Susanna,
which one?
Sue Herman
This
was
is
trying to say
Sue
something
Herman.
sooner. Earlier.
Susanna, in that September 30th, 2019 letter that you have from TTS to the higher level politicians,
Yes.
there is a section in there too, which is primarily Rob White's wording as to what noise abatement things are being done by the Philadelphia airport and the Newark airport together. That so these other airports in our region are already working with the FAA to do things like that. And the language in that letter is Rob's voice talking, saying, if they can do it, why can't TTN join in and be part of it too?
Okay.
You may wanna
All right.
take a look at
I
that.
probably read it, but every day I'm reading new things. Do you mind forwarding that on to me, Sue?
Sure.
I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sure I have it, but if you're looking at it right now, if you could just forward that to me, that'd be great.
I will.
Okay. Those were the topics I had on my list. And our actions are Peter's going to be following up with Senator Menendez. I will, and Brendan and Joanne, let me get your opinions on this in terms of asking the Board of Supervisors to send a letter to Mercer Airport for this request for information from the public. Technically, I think they're asking for information on, the public's reaction to these passenger fees. And so my initial response to that was, well, I don't see why we would ask the Board of Supervisors to comment on that. Sue and Holly said, well, it's an opportunity to at least express opinions to the airport, which we've sent letters to politicians, to the DEP, but I don't know if we have much on record to the airport themselves. So we could sort of reiterate the concerns about the water, the things that went into like the New Jersey Clean Air Council letter, but send it directly to the airport.
I mean, I think we can reiterate, we can ask them to send a letter for all those things, just on the basis of that, of those things up by themselves.
Okay.
Sending it under the guise of, and I didn't hear the beginning of the conversation, but it sounds like they're talking about how much they're going to charge passengers. That is none of LMT's business. So
Right,
putting it under the guise of, we want to talk to you about how much you're charging, and then we're going to, raise all these important issues. Just raise the important issues if you want to raise the important issues, but don't put it under the guise of talking about their
the facility fees. Yeah.
Charging,
agree,
gonna
Joey.
charge customers or passengers,
Mhm.
because they'll just then say, dismiss it on the basis of that. And they'll have a right to dismiss it.
Mhm.
You know, you have no right, and I'm not going to read the rest of the letter. Why should you talk to me about what I'm charging passenger fees? So I'm saying, if we want to ask them to write another letter, ask them to write another letter about all the issues, but don't say it's because of the passenger fees.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So can we agree on what those real quick points would be? I mean, water issues as outlined by the New Jersey Water Council would be the first.
Right. The segmentation of projects, the noise, it would basically be a reader.
It's health, it's noise. I mean, we've done the list a dozen times, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm just trying to put them here so they have them in front of me. I can go back in my notes and look.
no,
Thank
but I mean, it is health, it's water, it's noise, it's segmentation.
Right. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
I agree, Joanne. We can just ask them to send this letter to those people directly rather than just through other channels.
Right.
And this would be the Board of Supervisors to the Mercer County government officials.
Yes.
And the airport, are you saying to the freeholders and Melinda Montgomery?
I don't know who Melinda Montgomery is, but if
She's the airport manager.
I would put them on record as well, maybe. I mean, what do you guys think?
Sure.
You can send, that's great to send it to her too.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't want to just send it to Melinda Montgomery because I think it'll go the way of the noise complaint.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I think that wraps it up. I know they're using this meeting room for the sewer meeting coming up soon. So,
Thank you, Rich,
all right.
Yeah,
for all your work that
Rick,
you're doing.
Yes, Susanna.
Okay, so I think I'm going to be getting two emails, one from Sue and the other email, is that from you?
Yes.
Okay, super. I look forward to receiving those and reading over those and sharing those with my people over here on the New Jersey side. And, so many times, I just want to say this, so many times when we've met, and we meet quite often, we really want to thank Bram for all of the support that all of you have provided us through this really difficult process.
Great.
Hey, it's all about teamwork, Suzette. I mean, you keep knocking at the door and you keep changing who knocks at the door, and hopefully someone will get the door to open. And right now, TTS, is at the door, so we're right behind you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, airport.